But I don't believe Tyrese Haliburton is a superstar.
I know 100% ain't a top 5 point guard in the NBA right now. Tyrese Haliburton.
So the subject has been about whether or not he's a superstar and all of this other stuff, which I don't believe he is.
I have a very bad feeling about this.
5 seconds, 4 seconds. Haliburton for the lead. Carlisle's going to let him play. Haliburton steps back and hits.
He'll take it. He'll backpedal a 3 for the win. And goal!
Haliburton looking. Haliburton driving, pulls off, jump shot. It's good! It's good! With 3/10 of a second remaining.
Tyrese Haliburton and the Pacers have been a real good underdog story. Very few people expected Indiana to be the team to make it out the East, and maybe if it weren't for injuries to the Celtics, like Jason Tatum tearing his Achilles, things would have gone differently. Still, gotta give credit to Haliburton, as he's been on a historically great playoff stretch where he's hit 4 game winners. It seems like whenever it's clutch time, he's the guy that's gonna step up and take and make the big shots. No matter what he does, he could be even near perfect, he's gonna get criticized. And my personal stance on Haliburton is this: I think he's a good player, but honestly, there's players I'd rather watch over him. For a point guard, his handle's kinda weak, and I don't know, his jump shot is kinda funky too. Even though his game is unconventional, he does get the job done. But when I'm rooting for players, it's because I like their play style, and for me, there's players that are an easier watch than Haliburton. And I'm sure somebody in the comments isn't going to understand that and say I don't know basketball, but if you watch the games like I've been, there are some smoother players out there than him, and I'm not the only one who thinks that way. Watch how Rashad from Gil's Arena explains it.
Nah, it's not. It's preference, bro. It's hooper preference. It's like, man, I don't like his game. Yeah, he get it done, but man, that's nasty. I think he overrated.
So Rashad himself isn't calling Tyrese overrated. He's just specifically talking about the NBA player poll where they rated Haliburton the most overrated player. And he's saying part of the reason that the results were what they were is because they might not like his game, or at least the way it looks. So you gotta hear me out when I'm saying Haliburton doesn't have the most watchable playstyle out there. Sometimes it just looks off. And when you combine that with the fact I'm not a Pacers fan, it makes sense why I'm not Haliburton's #1 fan. But what I won't do is make that blindside me so much that I can't tell when people are hating on him too much. Because there's no world where Haliburton is the most overrated player in the league. I think that's a stretch. There's definitely players that are more overrated, especially when you factor in that he led his team to the Eastern Conference Finals the year before, so he's not the most overrated. If you think he could be ranked a little lower on some lists, that's fair, but the most overrated is a stretch at this point. But other players didn't think so, and I think all of this hate is starting to go to Haliburton's head because he called it out after Game 3.
The commentary is always going to be what it is. You know, most of the time, the talking heads on the major platforms, I couldn't care less, honestly. Like, what do they really know about basketball?
I shouldn't have said that. I should not have said that.
That was a risky move by Haliburton to call out the media like that. In his post-game interview, he claimed he doesn't really pay attention to what they're saying, but I can tell it gets to him a little bit. Otherwise, it wouldn't have warranted a response like that. I mean, questioning if they know anything about basketball is bound to get them riled up. He didn't have to add that last part in. I think he was just trying to make a point. There might be some frustration there from him, and I think it's understandable. He didn't get the Eastern Conference Finals MVP like he probably thought he should have, and he might feel like he's not as respected as he wants to be. But when you call out media members who talk basketball for a living, and then you question them about how they do their job, they're gonna go all out in defense mode. And that's exactly what we saw from Stephen A. Smith as he gave a response to Haliburton.
Let's get to Haliburton, because this bothers me, Magic. I'm going to tell you why it bothers me. First of all, the media includes folks who played. Charles Barkley played. Kenny Smith played. Shaq played.
Normally I don't abruptly stop clips like that, but I gotta stop Stephen A. there, because he's listing out former NBA players like Shaq and Charles Barkley and how they played in the NBA, and so they must know something about basketball. And I'm not saying that they don't know anything about basketball, but yet they consistently have some bad takes from time to time. So to say just because they played in the NBA, they know everything there is to know about basketball is a little bit of a stretch. On top of that, I don't know if Stephen A realizes this, but Haliburton is completely aware that there are former players who talk basketball. He knows about Charles Barkley, Shaq, Kendrick Perkins, all of those guys. Thing is, he doesn't care. He feels like whatever opinions are being said aren't worth anything, and it's his right to think such a thing. Just because you played in the NBA doesn't automatically mean that you're qualified to talk basketball. We see that time and time again, but I'm gonna let him finish his point.
It was the media that came out and said, you're not overrated. It was your peers who voted you overrated, not the media. You see how slick these dudes get? They try to point into the media. No, it's your colleagues. It's your contemporaries, right, present and former, who were questioning you. People like myself and others, other than the actual superstar debate, have done nothing but rave about Tyrese Haliburton.
From that, I can really tell that Stephen A wanted to make it clear that he and other media members weren't the ones who've been against Tyrese and called him the most overrated in the league. It was the players that actually voted that way. So it seems like a lot of guys in the league don't really like Haliburton, or at least don't respect his game as much as others. And that way, the poll felt less about who's overrated and more about who's not well liked, and Haliburton ended up on top. If I were an NBA player, I probably wouldn't want to be a part of a poll like that. It feels messy, like it's just there to create drama or tension between players. Plus, since the poll was anonymous, we don't even know who really voted for who. I think it would be more interesting if the poll wasn't private. If names were attached, you'd really get to see who stands on what, and maybe people would be even more careful with what they say. Also, Haliburton might even have a bigger target on his back by speaking out and questioning how much the media really knows about basketball. Some media folk aren't going to be very happy about that and maybe start going at him more, or maybe they'll just let it go and move on. But a lot of the personalities that are in the media aren't going to be too happy about that. Either way, it'll be interesting to see what happens next, because I'm starting to see the conversation shift a little bit, and since Haliburton has had such a successful playoff run so far, the question's being asked, is Tyrese Haliburton a superstar?
Let me answer the question about the superstar. How about you being the number one option?
I was just about to say.
And everybody in your face and game planning around you every day. And every day, for the most part, you answer the call.
Pacers down 3. Haliburton's got the ball. Haliburton rises up. And it's a whistle. Oh, my goodness.
Haliburton with 6. Haliburton for 3. He made it with 2.6 left.
And he'll lay it in and a foul.
Now they're minding because
here we go. Haliburton. 5 seconds. 4 seconds. Haliburton for the lead. 1.3 to go.
Perfection.
As I just showed you, Stephen A's own definition of a superstar describes Tyrese Haliburton. All those plays where he's been hitting these clutch shots show that he can answer the call, as Stephen A puts it. He definitely has proven himself in clutch moments to his teammates, and they're going to keep giving him the ball in these situations. Once the clock starts winding down, he really does seem to lock in and put Indy in the best position to win. That's what you'd like from a superstar, right? I mean, even guys that I'm sure Stephen A thinks are superstars haven't hit as many clutch shots as Haliburton has in these playoffs. Think about it. He considers LeBron a superstar, right? Yeah, LeBron didn't do half as much as Tyrese has done in these big moments. That's not a diss at LeBron, I'm just saying. And maybe I have it wrong. Maybe Stephen A just really doesn't consider clutch moments very heavily when he's deciding if somebody's a superstar or not. Which is weird because these types of shots are the most memorable because there's a lot on the line. Let's look at that game winner over Giannis that he had again.
Pacers down 3. Haliburton's got the ball. Haliburton rises up.
If you really paid attention to that clip, you probably noticed a couple things. First of all, Indy needed that shot because they were down by 3. Second of all, you've got to notice how hyped the announcers and the crowd got. That's because these shots are what really matter. They're what superstars get paid a bunch of money for. Of course, they want their players to be able to make plays in the first, second, and third quarter, but when it's the fourth, they want them to take it up a notch. So yes, you can point out players that are a lot more impressive outside of the clutch, but not many players have been able impossible to emulate what Haliburton has done so far in the clutch. Yet Stephen A just can't grasp that part of being a superstar, to even get you into the conversation, is being able to hit clutch shots.
You don't get it, Stu. You just don't get it.
Stephen A is really lacking understanding when it comes to this, but what he says next makes even less sense.
Are Hallie and Brunson already NBA superstars?
Huh.
No.
You know, okay, yeah,
Brunson
go, I say.
Brunson is, not Haliburton. He's not there yet.
You sure about that? You sure about that?
So there's nothing inherently wrong with thinking that Jalen Brunson is a superstar while Tyrese Haliburton is not, but that's probably before he hit all those clutch shots that you could think something like that, because I find it questionable how Stephen A seems to disregard the clutch part about Haliburton's game and thinks it doesn't contribute to him being a superstar, but when it comes to Jalen Brunson, I'm sure his clutch performances are probably why Stephen A thinks of him so highly. After all, Jalen Brunson did win Clutch Player of the Year, so that's a common theme in both Haliburton and Jalen Brunson's game. You can't discredit an element of one player's game, then uplift the same element for another player's game. I think Stephen A might be a little biased because, after all, he is a New York Knicks fan, and Haliburton just bounced them out of the playoffs. I do think Jalen Brunson is still the better player, and I'm not even mad at the idea that Haliburton isn't a superstar, but Stephen A thinks so for all the wrong reasons. Personally, I don't think Haliburton needs to be considered a superstar at all. That's fine. He's at least a playoff riser, kinda like Jimmy Butler used to be. That could be his thing. Maybe in the regular season he has some struggles like he did, but he turns it around in the postseason. I don't know, those are just my thoughts. But what do you think? Is Tyrese Haliburton a superstar? Tell me in the comment section below. Until next time, peace.